Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
Hey, you're welcome to Justice Serve TV, yo. We got some
You're
beats.
the wrong trial.
We got. Oh, wait a minute. I'm doing the wrong podcast. I'm
You're
sorry.
no, you're also the wrong trial. I mean, if you want to get ready
Okay.
for some of the hip hop or something, or maybe you missed the fact that you're supposed to be a dandy and have style because you didn't go to the Met Gala last night.
No, I
mean,
was not invited.
You're embarrassing me, Michael. You're embarrassing me.
It won't
All
be
I
the
do is
first
fashion.
or the last time.
With everything. Matter of fact,
Hey, Linda Kenny Bodden, is that?
Hey.
Have I seen that before? Is that a
yeah,
new?
this is the Crime Con jacket.
That's
as
right.
I continue to get ready here.
But it's not the skull. It's reversible, and there's a skull side, and that is not the skull side.
This is the
right?
flower side. It has a few skulls on it. Yeah, so
It has a few skulls on it. You know, the usual.
It's Andy Warhol. It's an Andy Warhol jacket. It's by Libertine. It's vintage. But he had, he did all these things, Andy Warhol, and that's what this is based on. So it has nothing to do with being disrespectful for death. It actually is very respectful for art, and he felt it was also respectful for life.
I love that guy. That museum is amazing. He's great. Before we get into too much, let me apologize to Sue E. Generous. Apparently, I offended her earlier today. I can't say I've never offended anybody, but
I leave you alone
I know.
half a day.
I was making fun of myself. Somehow that was misinterpreted. My apologies. Did not mean to do that. So, check this out. I know you've seen this. This is my evidence bag. Got a few pieces of plastic, a few pieces of taillight. But look what else look at this. You see that?
You have your fleece, what, the pants or the jacket? Let's do
Let's
an opening.
see.
Hey, wait, you gotta get a show. There's an opening, then you show it up. You have to show it. Yeah.
Well, it's here. It's in the bag, so to speak.
Well,
there's more than one thing. Did I get more than one thing? I did. I got this.
What do you have?
I got this for Lisa. Let's see. So I probably shouldn't open it, but
No, opening.
This is just the female tee. You know, it's kind of there. It is female tee. How do you know it's female? Yeah, Tom knows. Where's mine? Okay,
Justice
so that's
TV,
that.
great color. Our money green.
Should be where's the in debt green? Where's that?
Yeah,
one?
I have to do something for our members where I'm going shopping on the website. As soon as I can figure out how to pull the website into something that I can tape, which you may have to help me on. What's this now?
This is a full zip hoodie with this is the back. There it is.
Oh, okay. So we're having a new, also another one designed for poker, which will have the logo on the front with no back, so that if you play poker or whatever, or you're looking somebody from the front and not the back, you don't become a target. Is
that what it is? Oh, I say bring it on, because justice will be served.
Justice Serve TV. Woo!
There you go.
Wow.
Whew. So we have a guest today. We have a special guest who we always love having on because, in part, it's like getting the law and crime family back together, which is always nice. But he's just a fun dude, and some say he has unspoken Rizz. We know him. We love him. It's Bob Bianchi. Bob, thanks, buddy. Glad to see you.
Hey, all. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Bob.
I do nothing but
Raymond.
laugh from the minute your intro comes on to the minute I leave the show. I laugh. I feel good. I love it. I love you guys, man. Now you got merch.
You got merch. Yep.
Merch.
You got merch.
You know who makes me so happy, Bob. So happy.
So happy for you guys. Doing great, man. I love watching your stuff.
Well, you were nice enough to contribute to our 10K show, which was also just not too long ago, actually. We appreciate that. So we got dual expertise from you today. We've got your EMT experience. We've got your prosecutor, defense attorney experience. So it must be interesting for you with both of those talents to watch this Karen Read case unfold.
Guys, it's I think when I look back on my career, especially as a prosecutor, one of the biggest murder cases I ever tried was a death penalty case where a guy poured gasoline on his wife, lit her on fire, and killed her. It was a gruesome murder case. But when I reflect back, I realize how much my EMT experience that I started as a teenager and did all through college and law school had a dramatic impact on my knowledge of cases, where to look for certain things in cases, and how to develop themes. And in that particular case, I actually used the illustration of, on this day in 1990, it was, believe it, all the way back in the day. Little did these firefighters, EMTs, and police officers know that they would all come together for the first time and meet because of the actions of one man sitting right there. And so when I was listening to Karen Reed case, and this testimony is coming out, it really brought a lot back that many times in today's world now, especially when we're out at scenes and performing life-saving measures, that we are much more conscious now that what we're doing may wind up in the other end inside of a courtroom. And I think that you see more of that today than you did back 30 or 40 years ago. And we obviously saw it in the Karen Reed case with the testimony of the first responder here.
Yep. And do we want to get into that first? Should we do that, or do you want to do the text?
Yeah, well, we had actually
that
three first responders, but the last one was the
Katie
one that,
McLaughlin is my favorite.
yeah, you know,
yeah.
and Bob, we're going to talk to you about how statements can not exist, not be on a report, then all of a sudden one person says a statement, then a second responder says the statement, and it's supposedly a confession twice, then a third one comes in and says it like 3 or 4 times. I mean, how does that happen when the police are on the scene, don't hear anything from anybody? So,
curious. You know, I just realized
as we play,
I don't think the three of us have ever been on before at the same time. I don't. This may be the end of the world as we know it.
We should write a song like that.
Hey, I got a tune coming to my head. Okay, let's see if we can get into Miss McLaughlin, and just we'll let her establish, and then we'll jump in and get your
McLaughlin, McLaughlin. I'm a firefighter paramedic for the town of Canton, probably about 7 years at this point. I worked as an EMT basic for Brewster Ambulance. The call came in as a man down in the snow or a man unresponsive in the snow, and the call was 434 Fairview.
Let me point out, this is chopped up and there's music that I have no idea what it is because I just stole this from I think it was some other
road. When I got out of the engine, I went right back to the ambulance to get the stretcher because I knew that from wherever they were, they seemed to be kind of off of the road. So I got the stretcher, and then we brought the stretcher as close as we could to the patient, and that was like parallel to the curb, and that would be the first time that I observed them working on a patient.
How far away from where you were was Mr. O'Keefe and the other firefighters?
They were, I don't know that I could give a number, several feet away. They were like, I remember kind of seeing a fire hydrant, but I don't know exactly number-wise what that would be.
Okay, let's get, and first of all, that music is annoying. I didn't even know it was on there, but maybe it's appropriate that I wore my hat like this because that music is perfect. So initial impressions of her arrival on the scene, Bob, and you know, preparing for whatever, you know, she doesn't know at the time what she's facing.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we deal with all the time, right? A lot of people don't understand the courage and boldness it takes, that you are dispatched many times on often very little information, and you a lot of times are walking in to a dangerous situation. In this particular case, now it turns into a homicide. So I know the feeling very, very well. Rolling up, you're not sure what you're looking at. You're not sure what's happening. You're always worried about BSI, body substance isolation, and scene safe. First thing that you're always doing on a call is the scene safe for me to come out. So she comes out. Now, the first thing that she's thinking of is how am I see they're working on him, and there's a patient that's there. She probably doesn't even know it's a him at that point in time. So, of course, what she's going to be doing, or what a crew would be doing, is moving the devices over like a stretcher, because they know that they're going to have to eventually get that person into the ambulance. And a lot of times the next trick becomes treat the patient, but how are you going to get him from point A to point B? So that's what's going on in their minds, keeping in mind, Michael and Linda, that this person has no idea they're going to be on a witness stand a number of years later in a murder case or a manslaughter case.
Yeah. Did you
well,
say?
Can I just interrupt you there? If you think you heard somebody confess 4 times. Wouldn't you think that maybe it would come around?
Well, I'm talking about Michael asked me what's going on in her head right now when she
Oh,
rolls
okay,
up to the
okay,
scene.
got it.
Yeah,
got
we're
it.
early.
But-
We're early on. I just want to
but
lay
that
I'm
this.
sec-
early on. I'm
We're- yeah,
always in a hurry.
But where you are, Linda, is a very when we get there, when you guys are ready to go, there becomes a very interesting issue.
Yep. Did you say BCI? Is that what you said, or B? What were the initials?
BSI, like whenever you do anything when you're going through training, if
Okay.
you don't say to your instructors BSI scene safe, BSI is body substance isolation, gloves, masks. So the instructors want to know that your first 2 things when you roll up to a scene are BSI scene safe, and is the scene safe. Otherwise, you don't go in.
Gotcha. Okay. I missed that day of class, so I had to ask you what was going on there. Okay. Come on, Katie. Come on. Get in there. Get going. Uh-oh.
Hopefully without the music.
Well, I wish I could damp that, but I can't. I grabbed this clip, obviously, too quickly, and I didn't listen to it all that
And
carefully.
From your observation of where
Come on.
Mr. O'Keefe was, could you tell?
Well, it's going well already.
Is it impolite for me to be drinking an espresso while you guys are doing it?
No,
Oh,
no,
no.
no. We you know,
Drink
we-
whatever you want.
Drink whatever you want, and we're gonna say to you, suggest to you, hey, get a mug, Bob. Go to the store. Go to the merch store.
Absolutely.
We're not proud.
Okay, let me get past some of the introductory mumbo jumbo. Let's see where we are here.
He had, in terms of what he was wearing,
First, in terms of what he was wearing.
he was wearing jeans. He had on a dark colored light zip up jacket. And I noticed 1 sneaker.
With respect to this photograph, do you observe within it or where Mr. O'Keefe was on the ground when you first arrived?
From this angle, no, I don't.
Is it off to the left, the right, or where would it be in relation to this photograph?
To the left, I would say.
Yeah, I think she's wrong.
How far off frame do you believe it was?
I'm not sure. So my view of the call was, my reference point wasn't a house on either side. The patient was off the road. So my view of this call was the patient was on the side of the road. The only thing that I noted was a fire hydrant. So in relation to, I know it was to the left of a house, but I'm not sure exactly how far left it would be from this picture, from this angle.
When you finally approached Miss Reed in order to get that medical history as best you could, what did the scene look like? Who was with you or around you?
So they started to move the stretcher towards the ambulance. Miss Reed was sort of, I guess I would describe it as moving around the scene. So she was moving, kind of going in circles. So I was really just focused on her, trying to get her to converse with me and get those questions. So that I wasn't really noticing anything else at that point. I was more just trying to contact her, and she was moving around.
When you began your actual questioning, once everybody sort of stood still, and you began your questioning of Miss Reed, you were standing in one spot, Miss Reed was standing to your right, is that right?
Well, the questioning started, as I said, she was moving around the scene. So the questioning was ongoing as she was moving around to different locations. I don't know exactly how many of the questions I got out during the time that she was moving around. At one point, we did come to a stop, and at that point, she was to my right.
That's the point I want to focus your attention on, if I could. When you came to a stop, that's the point at which you recall the statement being made that you attribute to my client.
Yes.
Okay. And in that group, who was there? I want to make sure I understand this exactly.
So there was Miss Reed to my right. There was a civilian woman to my left. There was a police officer who was not directly across from me, but I would say maybe diagonal to me, closer to Miss Reed.
Okay. You are playing her
Do you see-
testimony from the first trial, Michael Bryan, because she's wearing a different cross.
Oh,
That's the cross
thank
from the
you
first
so
trial,
much.
okay? So it's pointed out by Oasis Capita. I almost didn't want to tell you.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
But
It was
Michael
not
also
labeled
noticed
pro-
that this is from this is what happens when you have a full-time law job and then you rush to get on and pull clips, okay?
It was
'Cause
not labeled very well.
Yeah, well, she's not labeled very well. No, I won't say that. So
Well, I appreciate that. So let me, I'm going to go ahead and start the other one, which we can play, which is the Garino stuff. And while that is going, I'm going to look for the current McLaughlin stuff.
and I have a theory about some of the stuff about Guarino. Okay, I have a theory. Remember who he is. Okay, and this is not Gallagher, right? This is
You what?
Guarino. This is Guarino. This is the text guy, right?
That's what I'm
This is
gonna.
the
That's what I'm
phone
gonna
guy,
play. Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm
Okay.
gonna play.
All right. Let's
You want me
see.
to do that now, or are you gonna? I thought you
Sure.
had
Let's
something
start
to
it now. While you
I thought
look
had
for it, and then
something
we
to
bring
say.
Bob. Then we'll bring Bob back in to talk about the EMT.
Okay, stand by. I'm trying to find the Garino. Hold on. Let me get rid of this mess. Okay, bye-bye. Let me find Mr. Garino. There we go.
By the way, thank you, Misty, new member.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is the phone calls on the 29th. So at 12:35 a.m., the defendant calls John. That phone call's not answered. 12:34:09 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:34:38 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:35:09 a.m., the defendant calls John. Not answered. 12:35:35, the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:36:09 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered.
Trooper Garino, let me stop you there for a second. Did you look into any internet connection between the defendant's phone and the router and the internet connection at Meadows Ave, John O'Keefe's home that night?
Yes, at 12:36:39 a.m., the defendant's phone auto connects to the Wi-Fi Hatsfan 123.
Are you familiar with the router at Mr. O'Keefe's home?
I have not done a look at it in person, but that's the known network that's listed under it. There's two, Hatsfan 123 and O'Keefe 74.
Did
Two
you
names
learn
listed.
the range that a connection must be in order to connect to his router?
Yes, so depending on the router, it's either a 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz radio band or signal band, I should say. Depending on which one it's connecting to, which band, it's either 150-foot indoor range or up to 300 feet outdoor. So again, when you pull into your home, sometimes you can still be connected to your home Wi-Fi in the driveway.
And again, can you give us the time of the connection between the defendant's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's router at Meadows Ave that night?
Yes, 12:36:39 a.m.
Please continue.
At 12:36:40 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. At 12:37:08 a.m., the defendant calls John, and voicemail number 1 is left with voice.
Ms. Gilman, would you kindly play the voicemail for 12:37:08?
At 12:38:26 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:39:03 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:39:37 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:40:43 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. At 12:41:35 a.m., the defendant calls John. Voicemail number 2 is left. Some beeping noises, appears to be a butt dial or accidental call.
Ms. Gilman, could you play the voice message at 12:41:35?
Somebody points out that sounds like she's undoing the home alarm or the
Right.
garage buzzer, and absolutely, 12:35. She's entering the house. Oh, those are her heels walking on the house. Those are her shoes walking on the floor. 12:35. So she's
Timeline
there
gets tighter.
beforehand. Timeline gets tighter, right?
The defendant then texts John O'Keefe at 12:55, 31 a.m. on the 29th, "I'm going home." The defendant texts John O'Keefe, "See you later," at 12:55, 50 a.m. on the 29th. At 12:58, 19 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:58, 47 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 12:59, 24 a.m., the defendant calls John. Voicemail number 3 is left with voice.
Ms. Gilman.
John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you are, you fucking pervert.
This is where I'd like to stop. Michael, can we stop here?
Sure.
We'll bring everyone in.
Don't trust me. Who knows what'll happen? Okay, yes, what's up?
No. This is where I'd like to stop. Okay. All right. First of all, she and Bob has been watching this. She was, if you look at all the calls during the whole day, she was ghosted by John O'Keefe all afternoon until he wanted her to pick him up. And so she goes out drinking in her mind. I'm just telling you if I'm a juror, I'm arguing in her mind. He's going out drinking with his friends. She's home to take care of his kids. So then she's trying to say, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home. He's still not responding. This doesn't mean in her mind that he's dead. The Commonwealth's going to say it's because not responding because he's dead. In her mind, it means because he went out drinking. He's going to continue to ghost her, blah, 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 blah. But what intrigued me is that she calls him John, and these are not my words, okay, because I'm a nice Italian girl from a Catholic school education. Bob Bianchi will understand that.
You guys won't, neither of you will understand this word.
You fucking pervert, okay? All right? All right. Now, right after this, the Commonwealth files a motion in the Sandra Birchmore case. That's the case, as you all know, and I have to disclose every time I get on that my husband works for the civil attorneys. He's the one who first said that homicide, that was a homicide, that was not a suicide. You know, forensic pathologists don't say who, they just said it's a homicide. As a result, as you know, the feds hired their own pathologists, agreed with him. Matthew Farwell has been arrested. He's got hearings in federal court. I believe he's been indicted for killing of a witness. It's a civil rights violation, technically, in federal court, even though it's involving a murder and all. But she calls him a pervert. Now, you know, I'm not one for conspiracy theories. However, he was assigned, John O'Keefe, to the Boston, when he had got the kids in the guardianship, to the Boston Sex Crimes Unit. And I'm sure it involves children's sex crimes or regular sex crimes or whatever, so you'd have more of a desk job, a 9 to 5. And remember, Brian Albert is a Boston cop, just like John O'Keefe. When you start using the word, you fucking pervert, now whether she's using it in his life, but at the same day, the Commonwealth files a motion to prevent any reference to Sandra Birchmore, and the judge grants it. Even though Guarino, who's on the stand, missed over 32,000 texts from Farwell to Birchmore, talk about his confidence. Even though Guarino, who's on the stand, missed the deleted texts of Jen McCabe, 227, hostile to die in the so. And you have Brian Albert, who is one of the 4 people who was on the investigative team to review or oversee the Sandra Birchmore case. And you have Lieutenant Fanning, who's the one in Birchmore from the Massachusetts State Police who called Sandra Birchmore a suicide. My hackles start going up when she uses the word pervert, because that's what that case was about. So I throw it out to all of you in the chat. I throw it to Bob. I throw it to you, Michael, and we're going to discuss it more tomorrow. But all of a sudden, my hackles are up as to what those fights in the waterfall were truly about.
Bob?
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, Bob. Passing
I don't know. Look, I mean, I'm going to answer. I'll do what a typical lawyer does, answer a question with a question. and about this testimony. There are 6 voicemails that are left. Michael, I texted you earlier today about this. Mm-hmm. There were like 44 to 52 messages from 12:37 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Is the government, Linda, conceding this is not a malice murder case at this point?
You know, No, I think they're trying to use that, like the first trial. They're saying because the first one says, "John, I hate you," that somehow she intended to kill him. I think it shows that she's alive. That she thinks he's alive.
Why would she be making the statement she's making? You would have to attribute to her the height of level of sophistication to cover up her crime when she's still trying to reach out to somebody who she knows she killed or hit with a car. And keep in mind, that witness, like everything in this case, is going to contradict the person we were just talking about, the EMT, who indicates that she believed that she was upset and hysterical, to use her quotes, when she was saying, "I hit him." So my question becomes at that point, the way I feel from this testimony today, the way the case was going, my feel about blood in the water, and somebody commented in one of your chats here, this case is very emotional to people. I don't know what it is about this particular case, but I am not talking about liking one side or the other side. I am talking as a former homicide prosecutor. And this is not the kind of case I want to go to trial with. This is not the investigation I want to go to trial with. Destruction of evidence. They don't go and get the I'm going to say ring video, whatever the video is from the deputy chief across the street. Cell phones are purged. They don't get a search warrant or ask for even consent to search the home. Evidence appears that wasn't there initially. There's things that are really making me question what went on here. But again, I go to what is my theory as a prosecutor of the case? Is it malice murder or is it recklessness? Or is this a situation where she was so drunk, she comes back and now is putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 7.5? I must have hit him when I was in the vehicle. I don't know what the theory is, but to me, what the state's witnesses give you something and then another witness takes it away. But I am very sorry, just to make a point on it.
No.
Very confused about this timeline as a human being, not a prosecutor, not a defense lawyer. As a human being, if I believe somebody intended to harm or knowingly did something where it was reasonably practicable that death was the result, that's the standard here for the malice murder, right? Malice aforethought. Then why am I texting him and asking him all these voicemail messages? My question now is, I am pretty convinced the jury is not going to find him guilty on the top charge here. And I think the defense is going for the outright not guilty, and the prosecutor is hanging the head that maybe I got to get her on something. So we do this as trial lawyers all the time, and your audience should know this. We have a red line, we call it. What's a win and what's a loss here? And I throw it back to you guys. What's a win and what's a loss here? Does the prosecution say at the end of the day, hey, we never really thought we get malice murder because of the evidence in the case, but we got the manslaughter DUI or leaving the scene, and that's a win for us? So I don't know where they're seeing the win here, but
I agree with you. I think they think the jury needs that to throw one out and they can decide to settle, as if this should be some kind of Harper's Bazaar that we go shopping within Woodstock.
Yeah, but Linda, just to finish this point, like there's solo cups with biological evidence in it, put in a paper bag that they don't know where it came from. The basic. There you go. I mean, there's a certain point in time where a case like this demonstrates why there's a constitution, why there's the proof beyond the reasonable doubt, a presumption of innocence, because ladies and gentlemen, those who are disputing my opinions here, whatever, which is fine, you can do that, but I've been at these scenes. I've watched malfeasance happen. I've watched people jumping to conclusions, and no matter what happened, they disregarded other evidence. This is why defense is so important in a case like this, because as a prosecutor, in a million years, I would not want to be trying this case. And I've tried a lot of hard cases. I wouldn't want to be trying this one.
By the way, I had to put up my husband's a hero because he was the one who was a result of that on the Birchmore case. But yeah, to your point, Bob, I mean, why is she calling him and leaving him? They had these things all day, and he was ghosting her. Then he's like, oh, lovey-dovey, and then we're going to go out together. And, oh, by the way, I need you to drive me. Where are you? You have to drive me. And then, this is not a motive for murder. But if you know something about a perv ring that's going on in the neighboring town that maybe other people know about, that could be a motive for a cover-up, right?
Yeah, for the cover-up. I think we all agree that the top charge was probably thrown in there to leverage, because we know now from that text message of, hey, if we get a plea deal, this will end quickly. Otherwise, it's going to be an episode, right? So they throw that in thinking that'll, you prosecutors, you guys do that all the time.
No, I'm going to push back on that.
I know you didn't.
I'm going to push back on that. You are right, and this is an unfortunate state of affairs in this country. Okay, I never overcharge a case. Every charge that I went before a jury with, I believed in my heart, whether I could prove it or not, that that person was guilty of the offense charged. But I do agree with you, Michael. I'm seeing it more and more where they overcharge the case as a throwaway, to the jury. And as lawyers, I mean, I don't want to. This is not like corny, high on the mountain stuff. Lots of us believe as prosecutors that you have an ethical obligation only to go forward with charges that you believe you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and certainly that you believe are true. So this whole thing that we do now, I got a case right now where this has happened. They charge this guy with a completely blown out of the water offense and then offer him a plea offer, because it happens on the plea side too, where they're like, well, but we'll plead you down to a second degree, 7 years in state prison. And you're like, well, in order to avoid the 20 years on a charge that shouldn't have been brought in the first place.
And the
This
death
is
penalty is the
unfair
same
tactics.
way, right? The death penalty is the same way. They'll charge with the death penalty and negotiate
So
down
they can
to a life
negotiate it out.
imprisonment. Right.
So to finish my point, I think we have seen, even in the 2 weeks of this trial, that the push seems to be for the second charge, for the manslaughter charge. They're focused on, they got the alcohol information in, that's easy. And there's been less, in my opinion, push for that top charge. I think, without saying it, they are giving up on that. They're pushing for the middle charge. That's the victory, to answer one of your questions. To me, that's their victory, to get her on manslaughter with the DUI connection.
Yeah, that's to them. But this whole thing, and then you have, and you mentioned it, Bob. I mean, you have Brian Higgins, who I'm not sure the prosecution is going to call. I think they're going to avoid him. He's an ATF agent. He was sussing out a relationship, right, with the Karen Reed in the waterfall bar too. Apparently, maybe the things were not going so well. He thought with John O'Keefe, so he's sussing it out. He's an ATF agent. He goes to an Army base knowing that there's going to be an order coming down to hold his phone, gets rid of his phone, gets rid of the SIM card. Albert gets rid of the SIM card. McCabe gets rid of their phone, right? Or I should say their phones. 3 people get rid of their phone. Who should know better? 2 of them, at least cops.
Yeah, and why aren't these guys I mean, in any other world, if this were happening, you'd be charged with hindering an investigation or destruction of evidence. I mean, I'm not sure if that was in play here ever or whatever, but if I were a defense lawyer representing those cops and the prosecutors want to talk to them after they destroyed the phone evidence or whatever, I'd be telling them, you got to give them a grant of immunity before you're talking to my guy, because they could be charged with that. I mean, we see people being charged, once again, I go back to it. And I tried so hard as a prosecutor not to be this way. If depending on who you are or who you're identified with being with, sometimes creates a different result. And because these guys are cops and they did it, nothing happened to them. But if you were an ordinary Joe on the street and an investigation was happening and you dumped your phone, then you could be assured you're going to get charged. Am I wrong?
No.
That sounds like the right thing to do to me.
Right. They even switch carriers, right, so that you can't say anything. But I'm really offended by the judge. I tell you, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. She's in the same talk course that I'm in. But to not allow this person to be questioned on his competence, the Guarino, who missed all the texts in Birchmore, not allowed him to be questioned on competent, any of these people on their relationship, I think is outrageous. She wants to, in my opinion, she stepped down off the bench and she's become a prosecutor, in my view.
Here's what we're going to do, because I want to get to this last call as part of this Guarino testimony, because there's a lot in it.
And I'm going to keep quiet, because we want Bob on to talk about the EMT also.
Yeah, then we're going to get to that, because I actually found the right stuff, and while we've been doing this, I put it in there. It's in there somewhere, but I want to get to the end of this video first, because I think this last call, which is the one that was caught at 6:03 when they're at the scene. And it's kind of a weird mishmash of the 911 call that's caught up in the Bluetooth for the car. So there's a lot going on here. Let me see. With that set up, let me see if I can get it going here again. And we can listen to, come in, where are you?
The defendant calls John. It's not answered. At 1 a.m. 49 seconds, the defendant calls John. Voicemail number 4 is left. It's 1 second call, no sound.
Ms. Gilman?
That was it.
It's call number 8. There's
24:27 a.m. The defendant calls John.
Up here.
Not answered. 5:25:28 a.m. The defendant calls John. Not answered. 5:26:14 a.m. The defendant calls John. Not answered. 5:28:16 a.m. The defendant calls John. Not answered. 5:28:43 a.m. The defendant calls John. Not answered.
One thing I mentioned, Bob, tell me what you think of this while we're
5:29:21
waiting for this to
defendant
queue
calls
up.
John.
You'd have to be an
Not
amazing
answered.
actress to have just
5:29:46
killed or
a.m.
done something
the
leading
defendant
to the
calls
death
John.
of somebody and
Not
then
answered.
act
5:30:15
like she's
a.m.
acting.
The defendant calls John.
Absolutely. Like you,
Meryl
I mean, if I were the
Streep stuff.
defense lawyer, you'd be asking the
5:30,
question,
52
what's the
a.m.,
prosecution
the
trying to
defendant
do?
calls
Help
John.
us win our case?
Yeah, it just doesn't ring true that, oh, she did all of that and now she's flipped a switch and she's Gloria Desmond, or it's just
Not
bizarre.
answered. 5:31:21 a.m. The defendant calls John. Not answered. 5:36:29 a.m. The defendant calls John. Not answered. 6:03:02 a.m. The defendant calls John, and voicemail number 8 is left with some voice and noise and background.
Ms. Gilman, could you play that, please?
Yes, I need someone to report you. 34 beautiful Vietnam with a handcuff notice now. Yeah. Okay, I know. Where's the blankets? I don't see blankets, Terry. Yes, I need something.
we have the lights on, please?
All right, I've asked Missy
Alrighty
questions for 3 bucks, and the reason why is Olivia Niles in the chat, Bob and Michael,
I have no
and
further-
she really has covered this. Notice how they deliberately don't display any of Jen McCabe's calls to John O'Keefe during the same time period. So before we discuss that, just notice that at the same time. And by the way, also our Joanna Goddess, thank you for covering this. Happy
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
So let me be to put my conspiratorial, like when you're looking at a case, right, and you're preparing as a prosecutor, you want to think of every possible angle the defense can come at you, and you want to rebut that, right? So you want to find the evidence rebutted. Is there a possibility when they're going into that there's not certain evidence seen at the scene, like the hat and the plastic pieces of the vehicle and things of that nature? Is it possible somebody's drunk? She's there. She's clearly panicked when you're listening to this call right now. So if you tell me this is a person that did not know what she had done, and she puts 2 and 2 together and comes up with 7 and says, oh my God, I must have hit him. It's like the movie My Cousin Vinny, I Stole the Tuna. Like, it all depends on like kind of how you're saying it. Like she's inferring. Now, let's say other people were involved or knew what happened, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. And they're like, wow, we could pin this on her. She's saying she must have hit him. She's thinking she may have hit him. And they start throwing some pieces of evidence out there into the crime scene. Is that a possibility here?
Well, even more so, when you played the clip today, the first clip that we didn't play before that was one of the interviews. She said the reason why she talked about it, her first thought was that could she have hit him? Because Jen was saying no one has seen him. So we're going to throw that now. We're going to take that hot potato and throw it to Michael, Bob, because that's the question.
Which part?
Jen McCabe is saying no one has seen him. So Bob is asking if she's putting 2 and 2 together, getting 7. Could I have hit him? Could I have hit him? Right? And she's also at the scene, chaotic, panic-stricken. And Jen McCabe is telling her, no one has seen him. No one has seen him. No one has seen him, planning in her mind that obviously you must have been the last one.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if it penetrated because she was so, I don't think she was listening to any sort of, persuasiveness from Jen McCabe. She was out of her mind. She was freaking out. And unless she is, as I said, one of the best actresses ever, it seems genuine to me. And you're not freaking out like that unless you're a psychotic and a sociopath that can distance what you did from now reacting as if you didn't. I just don't know how anybody does that. So that's what comes through to me. And if I'm on this jury, that comes through loud and clear as her screams are loud and clear. There's an interesting point in this, and I know the defense is going to come up with it. Our chatters have talked about it, where Jen is saying something, then there's a cough of some sort that kind of covers Jen's reference to the call, remember the phone call she's making? Because it wasn't supposed to be picked up on this phone. And it's hard to tell what it is, but it's sort of incriminating toward Jen. But there's this cough, and everybody knows who's been in a theater. A cough is the way to stifle hearing anything that's being said. If you're in court, if you're in church, if you're in a movie, somebody coughs and you lose whatever it was. So I'm hoping the defense goes back through and plays that a few more times so we can hear exactly what's being said there, because I think it's important and something Ms. McCabe probably would not like them to hear.
But Bob, you're an EMT. What you don't hear on, that's an open phone that no one realizes is open. Even it's that put in like it's in the back of a car. You don't hear her say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him" 4 times, which is what the testimony is, or 3 times with another person, 1 time with another person. You don't hear that. You hear a panic-stricken woman. What are your thoughts as an EMT?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't be an EMT. I think that we all could kind of come away with the idea that she's calling continually for a 6-hour period of time. She's in a panic. I don't believe she's the greatest psychopathic actor in the world. I believe she is in shock. I think the jury is going to find that. But moreover, it's not even what the jury finds. The jury has to find beyond a reasonable doubt, all 12 of them, that in fact she is this incredible liar. They're not going to find it. It's not going to happen. So that hobbles the prosecution's case at that point in time. My concern as a prosecutor is like, did something else happen? Maybe she does believe she did it. Maybe she believes that maybe I hit him. Maybe that's how this happened. And maybe she's wrong. She was so bombed.
That's right.
And I think
that's a reasonable. Look, Michael, you're running through your mind. What happened?
I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. I want to tell you, I had a case one time where a guy said he must have sexually assaulted a woman in the stairwell of a hotel in Atlantic City. and he was so drunk he couldn't remember the incident. We couldn't polygraph him because he couldn't remember the incident. So we're trying every way we could. Ultimately, the woman admitted that she lied. And the reason she lied was that her husband found out about it. And she had to make up an excuse that she was raped because of whatever the extenuating circumstances. The point of the moral of the story is the guy was saying, like, why would the woman say that if I didn't do it? And it's out of my character and I've never done anything like that. But why would she lie about it? And so the guy was confessing on himself. How many false confession cases have we seen? Is this another one?
So he had a bit of a conscience then. He thought, well, if I can't rule myself out, maybe I did it. And I think that's believable. If you're in her position, you're thinking, you're going through the night. Yeah, I had some drinks. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? I really think that's the worst thing the defense has to deal with in this case, because the other stuff is a throwaway. Everybody's saying her confessing effectively, I did it, I hit him. I think nobody's going to buy that as basically a quasi confession. But I think they can buy, she drank a lot, she wasn't quite sure what happened, she bumped into him, she knocked him down, ended up resulting in his death because of a head injury or whatever it was that led to the hypothermia. I think a jury could find that and hold her responsible for that. So could I have done it? Did I do it? I think is very damning for the defense.
It's hard. It's the most dangerous part of the defense. Let's face it. That's why the jury has to be, and I hope if the defense is doing this right, and Bob knows this, and I'm going to ask because he's watched this, that the forensic pathologist for the medical examiner won't say that there is a automobile strike. The forensic neuropathologist for the Boston medical examiner won't say there is an SUV strike. The forensic pathologist for the FBI won't say there is an SUV strike. The ARCA FBI biomechanical engineer and reconstructionist won't say there's an automobile strike. So do they have to separate that out and get them to understand that they have to find the collision first? No collision, even doesn't matter how blindly drunk she is, Bob.
Yeah, that's exactly where the defense is going to sneak in. I think the argument we're making right now is she was so drunk she didn't remember, and she put 2 and 2 together and came up with 7.5. But the medical evidence and the scientific evidence does not support her conclusion, because that's not how these injuries were created. That's a big problem for the state.
Yeah. And to me, that's the scales of justice. That's what they're going to be weighing. Her confusion over what happened versus physical evidence that they believe on one side or the other, because we know there's going to be an attack on the feds who say there was never any contact between the vehicle and Officer John O'Keefe. So
Bob, you've seen the arm injury.
As an EMT, as an EMT, what do you think of that?
No, I mean, yikes, guys. I mean, I don't know.
Yikes, guys.
I'm not an anthropologist or anything like that, but look, I mean, you don't know. I'm going to keep going back to the place where it's so important, and we so often can forget about, that this is not an even playing field, that our law and our courts are designed that the government prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, and a person is presumed innocent up until the time 12 people say that presumption has been overcome. The burden is not on the defendant, it's on the prosecution. The burden is heavy, and it should be. And so where the injuries come from, I don't know. A priori, after the person is gone, I don't know. And it's not my job as a defense lawyer to figure it out, but it is my job as a prosecutor to explain it. Otherwise, I know there's reasonable doubt. I don't think that those injuries, to the extent the court is going to allow it, are going to assist the prosecution at all. And this is why I'm saying one step further. Before I've gone to trial and on tough cases, on this case, based on what I'm seeing, and I don't have everything, and I don't have all the boxes, and I don't want to be an armchair quarterback, but I've just seen enough here where I think there have been times as a prosecutor where I've looked at things and I was completely convinced that it was this way. And then upon further reflection and looking at the very same evidence down the road, that it turned out that what I initially thought was not the way it was at all, that it was a misinterpretation. It was jumping to conclusions. It was missing evidence. I have problems with whether I would want to go forward as a prosecutor on this case, even if I believed she did it.
Yeah. I just use the what the hell test here, Bob, when I get to the end of the prosecution's case and I'm saying, what the hell happened? That's reasonable doubt. I can't tell what the hell happened. I do have. Should we watch some of McLaughlin? I know.
Yeah, but let's read. Olivia points
okay.
out, why would Karen Reed ever think that John was beaten inside the house by his friends and put out like trash to die in the cold, especially after Jen McCabe was telling her he never came? And that's the first thing I noticed today, that she says, she's telling me he never came inside the house, you know? So that's a question to ponder for both of you.
Yes, that's huge.
Call Katie McLaughlin.
Okay. Let's make sure it's the right one. Oh, Brennan's there. Okay. So I'm going to go toward the end because that's when the cross-examination gets more interesting. Usually his cross-examination is always more interesting. Okay, let's see. Moving. Okay.
May I stay by the witness stand just so I can take the photographs back? Can you describe, first of all, take a quick glance through that series of pages and tell me if you recognize what's depicted in those pages?
Oh, this is not so much medical. So I'm going to be, that's the part where she's asked to recognize pictures of her with Caitlin, remember?
Another issue, Bob. If somebody in a
that's not an EMT issue, but Bob probably has a good way in.
Bob has
Go ahead.
Go ahead. If somebody in her first trial gets demolished because she says she has no relationship with the daughter of where the dead body was found, the daughter of the parents of the dead father is found, right? And then she gets demolished by showing her, here's all your pictures. You went to the beach, you went to a vacation, you went to here, you went to the baby shower, you went to there. Then the judge won't allow the defense after the prosecution says to her, do you have any relationship? Well, we went to high school together, but we're really not friends. They wouldn't let the defense show these pictures or cross-examine her on this relationship. Bob,
basically Facebook pictures of them in various events, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's substantively relevant, and Linda, Michael, you know that credibility is always relevant to every witness, and any extraneous information that bears upon the believability of a witness, whether it relates to this trial or not, is admissible unless the judge excludes it under Evidence Rule 403. In this case, it's directly related to the case, so I think that this is one of those kind of rulings that the defense is going to have to put in its quiver for an appeal down the road. Yeah. But, you know, the judge is given a tremendous amount of discretion in terms of credibility attacks on witnesses. So I'm not sure. I don't think in and of itself it would cause a reversal, but maybe in combination with other things it could.
Yeah, I agree. It's harmless in and of itself, but it's so annoying. That's my legal evaluation. It's so annoying when you see it happen again and again. Okay, this is the part where the witness is claiming, see, we see the video. She's explaining who's gesticulating, who's out of control.
She was frantic throughout the whole scene. I think that was me describing the entire scene.
I see.
Yeah.
So she did not look overly frantic in that video.
She was upset, for sure.
Was she overly frantic and almost hysterical in that video? Just now?
I don't know that you could really see from that video.
Did you see anything that appeared to be overly frantic and almost hysterical?
Like I said, that video is not really you can't hear anything, so it's hard to.
Was she running around?
She had been.
I didn't ask you if she had been.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that happened. When she's standing there with you, was she running around?
No, she had just stopped running around.
Was she gesticulating?
I don't know.
Do you know what that means?
I don't.
Was she using her arms and going crazy? With her hands and arms and running in circles?
She had been, but like I said.
She had been.
Yeah, but I think.
I'm asking you about what happened before you got there. I'm asking you what happened when. I'm sorry.
Question and answer, please.
Thank you. I'm not asking you what happened before we got to that video. All right? I'm asking you about the video in which you described her previously as being overly frantic and almost hysterical. Did she look like she was just gesticulating and moving her arms and spinning in circles?
Not in that video.
Okay, thank you. And according to you, that's the point at which Ms. McCabe said, I think you need to calm down. Correct?
Yes.
And according to you, that's the point at which Ms. McCabe said, you're hysterical. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just so I'm clear, who in that video, Ms. Reed or Ms. McCabe, appeared to be doing most of the talking?
You cannot see from that video.
Who in that video
I don't know.
appeared to be gesticulating with her arms? My client or Miss McCabe?
I think Miss McCabe was doing that, saying you need to calm down, you're hysterical.
Oh, the whole time she's gesticulating, she's saying, calm down, Karen, you're being hysterical. Calm down, you're hysterical. And just repeating that?
She was trying to get her to stop and to calm down because of the statement she was making.
I see.
And she was trying to get her to stop, calm down.
I see. Okay. So during that entire video, that was probably 40, 50 seconds or so, maybe it was a minute. That's when you're saying now that Miss McCabe was gesticulating and saying, calm down, Karen. You need to stop making statements. Calm down. Right? That's what she was doing.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you'll agree that Miss Reed was standing relatively quietly to your right, not saying much of anything.
No, what she had just said, she had seemed upset when she said that. And what she said was, obviously, Miss McCabe was trying to convince her that that was not, you need to calm down. Stop saying that.
Right in front of a police officer who never said he heard her say it.
Objection.
Right?
Sustained.
And then, of course, he's referencing the I hit him.
You
But
were
nobody else
standing
broke it down.
18 inches, 2 feet from Officer Seraph, correct?
I don't know exactly.
Well, give me an idea. I mean, 2 feet, 3 feet, whatever.
He was standing near me.
And he was standing even closer to my client, wasn't he?
Yes.
At this moment, when you claim to have heard the I hit him repeated 4 times, where was Officer Flamati? I'm sorry, where's Firefighter Flamati and Firefighter Nuttall?
In the ambulance.
With the doors closed.
Yes.
And the ambulance, this is my ignorance, I'm assuming the engine was running.
Yep.
I'm assuming that there's some sort of a heating system inside that ambulance to keep it nice and warm for patients.
Yes.
So that was running as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yep.
So with that door closed, those doors closed, how many feet away, by the way, from where we're looking? How many feet away? How many yards away?
I don't know. We were fairly close to the ambulance.
Further than you and I are from each other right now, or closer?
I think closer.
Okay. How about now?
I'm not sure. The ambulance was behind us. I'm not sure how close we were.
Right. At least a few yards.
Sure.
Okay. And those doors are pretty thick, secure metal doors that lock. Is that right?
Yes.
Obviously, when you saw them, I mean, I know you don't know what was happening inside the ambulance, but when you saw them, Firefighter Nuttall and Firefighter Flamati were engaged in life-saving measures with Mr. O'Keefe, one doing the bag, one doing chest compressions, as they entered into the ambulance, which you did see, correct?
Yes.
When those doors closed, would you presume, from your experience, that those life-saving measures and their focus was on John O'Keefe, that continued?
Yes.
You testified that you went back to the ambulance at some point and you told Firefighter Flamati and Firefighter Nuttall what you claim to have heard. You've told this jury, correct?
I went back to the ambulance after that and I told them what was said and gave them the demographic information that I got.
Okay. So in other words, Firefighter Flamati and Firefighter Nuttall heard it from you. You didn't say it to somebody else and they reported it to those two. They heard it directly from you, correct?
I went back and I said, I gave the demographics and I said, she's saying I hit him.
Right. So in other words, they heard that from you.
I gave them.
Bob.
Is that yes or no?
Objection.
I'm objecting.
Hold on. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Linda.
I'm
Go ahead.
objecting to Hank objecting. Bob, you're an EMT. I hit him. Boom, 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 boom. Car, bicycle, baseball bat. What? With what? What do you
Well,
want?
so let's break this down a little bit from an EMT's perspective. Okay, they're there, and their job is not to do an investigation, but to do interdiction for patient care. However, part of patient care is mechanism of injury, And if you are hit by a vehicle that is a very relevant and salient fact, or however you're hit, really, is a very relevant and salient fact to note in your report, and to note for your out of hospital care, for your in hospital care, to have a record to review. So when I first listened to this testimony and I heard that Karen made this statement and she didn't note it in her report, the first thing that struck me is this is something that we definitely would have put in the report at a minimum to explain how the injury may have occurred. So I don't think the defense, I don't know if the defense is getting there. I am surprised at the manner in which they're cross-examining her, and some of the things that they're arguing with her about, like, I think actually help them. And I don't know why they're arguing about it, but nevertheless, they have a theory of the case. But do you guys know, rhetorical question back to you, did the defense lawyer get into that you would put that in your report so that you can explain the mechanism of the injury? We always want to know, was an airbag deployed? Was there a damage to the vehicle? Where was the patient? Where was the patient injured? Where was the patient struck? You would ask all these questions as part of your patient care.
Well, you would like the response, and I wish I could isolate it, but as you know, I'm challenged with playing these video clips. But they ask the question, common question. You first thing you think of, why didn't you want to? Well, I didn't want to get into that. I didn't feel comfortable getting into that, and I'm not investigating what happened. So that was her. She was uncomfortable getting into it. Not explaining why it wasn't important as a healthcare provider, as an emergency healthcare provider, but just saying she personally didn't want to get into that.
Yeah, that is a. Yeah, she seems like a pretty credible person to me, but that is a nefarious answer for.
Oh, wait,
nefarious. Did he say nefarious?
Did
That's
you say
the word of the day.
Alexa, what does the word nefarious mean?
Who are you asking? The dog? Do you have a talking dog now?
Well, if anybody has a talking dog, it will be Linda. But she's asking Alexa, right? Was that Alexa?
Wicked, evil, nefarious. I use it because some question to McCabe, a question was asked, and there's Tubi, there you see him up in the corner there, Tubi the poodle, and she said that there was nothing nefarious about the phone call. She didn't answer the question. She used the word nefarious. And when you just said nefarious, we were like, nefarious?
Yes, it's become the word of the trial. Yeah, she was so defensive about what was being said that she threw nefarious out, and Alan Jackson's like, I never said thing was nefarious. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, she could be malfeasant, but this is where a lawyer should be consulting with an EMT expert or a out-of-hospital care provider, and they very well may have. Had they consulted with me, for example, I would have said, I'm going to show you where in the NREMT and paramedic training you are to ask what the mechanism of it. Was it a bat? Was it a car? Was it your fist? Was it your what? Because where did you hit him? Where was he struck? Was it his head? Did he lose consciousness? Is he on blood thinners? There's like a million questions that you're asking because you're trying to determine where the mechanism of the injury is to treat it. So to me, as an EMT on the scene, I'm hearing, I hit him. I'm going to ask, what did you hit him with? Where did you hit him? Did he lose consciousness? When did he lose consciousness? Is he bleeding? Is it a sharp force injury, a blunt force injury, a head trauma? All this is extremely relevant.
It's just common sense. I mean, she could have slapped him at breakfast this morning. I mean, and that's what she's thinking of. Here he is dying, and last thing I slapped him from 12 hours ago. Probably irrelevant as it relates, but you want to know that, you just, I just don't understand how they can blow that off like it's no big deal. If it happens.
Yeah, two questions, Bob. What is the NREMT? That's first question, A. And B, when you're in that rig, because we've seen you all rigged out, you go on these 24-hour shifts. I mean, you're just the most amazing person, giving back to your community again, going back to doing this. Aren't you calling the hospital or somebody calling to say, I'm bringing in like a car hit patient, I'm bringing a I'm bringing a gunshot wound patient? Is that protocol?
Yeah, so the NREMT stands for the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians. It's a nation standard that is used, and it's no longer done state by state. It's a national standard. So that makes the rules, regulations, treatment, and care more uniform around the country as the way it used to be, which was more disparate from state to state. To answer your other question, if we're going in with a trauma at that level, we're definitely calling in. First of all, we're calling medics, and she is a medic from what I understand, but we're also calling into the hospital to let them know we have a significant trauma. You need to get yourself ready, get all hands on deck when we come in there. Because the last thing, if you go in there with a patient like that and you have not notified them ahead of time and they have to start scrambling to get the resources necessary, you're going to get some people looking at you out of the side of their eyes when you get to the hospital. So, yeah, all of that would be done. And I see and hear people are asking questions about how loud the ambulance is. And these are all great questions that I hope the defense is going to try to get out somehow in some way, shape, or form. But again, practice point to the lawyers that are watching the show. If you want to go after a witness this hard and with this level of ferocity that the defense is doing here, be prepared to speak to experts in the field so that you prepare yourself to ask these very questions that you're asking, Linda. And if the witness gives you an answer like, well, it wouldn't be protocol to ask how you hit him, what you hit him with, and where they were hit, you can basically pull the book out and say, really? You were trained pursuant to these regulations, to these procedures, and what does it tell you? Yeah, that's killer
Wow.
across.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That, by the way, thank you, Christine Mitchell. Thank you, Bob, it says, Linda, Michael, and Bob for.
And Bob,
that,
wait,
yeah.
Bob gets kisses, as I see. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. So Bob, you're just making my point that beyond common sense, that's what the book says you do. You know, it supports what everybody would look at this with just regular Joe eyes and say, why wouldn't you want to know that?
And, you know, Michael,
curious.
another thing too, to your common sense point, like I'm just thinking as you say that, when you say common sense, I can't imagine what would happen if I were at the squad and somebody came and said, oh, I had a call the other day and there's a dead guy. Someone's dead. There's a dead cop. And the person said to me, I hit him like a number of occasions. That this would not be something that would move up the chain of command like in a flash and be reported. It's just, it defies common sense. It's just like, to your point, it's just not right.
I actually missed this, Bob. If someone says in our chat that they didn't use because it was asked whether they used the siren, and she says, I didn't miss this. They only use the siren if there's traffic and they didn't want to wake anyone up.
That's what they've said about all these emergency vehicles. They said the fire truck, the squad cars, no sirens, because that's only for getting rid of traffic. So what's your take on that? If the roads are clear, you never use the siren. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't use sirens unless I have to, and unless I'm confronting a condition. In fact, to me, the slower you get to a hospital, they say slow is fast. But, you know, in a case like that, I mean, I'm kind of imagining that they knew that he was flatlined and deceased for a period of. I'm surprised that they even started resuscitative efforts in the first place, if you believe the state's theory of the case.
Let me get your take on that, because we've heard that when we're looking at a hypothermia condition, right, that sometimes the signs of life can be suppressed.
That's true.
So they want to warm the body up a little bit just to make sure there are no signs of life. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is true. Look, it never hurts to do it, and they could be right. And really, a lot of it's dependent on what you're seeing when you're in the field. But when in doubt, you do it. But once you start, you don't stop. But getting to the hospital and in that condition is not a fast encounter. You're in there. I don't know if they're using a Lucas. I didn't watch the testimony. I don't know if they're doing compressions, but they're bagging him. They're working on him, and those ambulances are very top heavy. So when you're moving and you're turning and you're hitting bumps, you feel everything. So sirens would not be indicated in that situation unless there was traffic you had to get around, in my mind.
So we have It's Bittersweet says the basics of medical training, and we learned this about police training too. Police questioning last night from Joe Jacqueline. If it's not written down, it never happens. Okay.
I hear that all the time. That's a comment. Whoever wrote that is very perceptive. That's a common. I don't agree with it. I fight my colleagues all the time with this. But we know that as police officers too, Linda, right? When we're training cops, you don't want them to write a novel, but you enough to be able to get through there. So there are things that they're not going to put in there. But the point is, if you don't put it in, it's not that it didn't happen. It's just that you may get a defense lawyer jumping down your throat in a courtroom about it, as we can see. By the way, this case illustrates to me every fear I had as the county prosecutor. Now, I tried murder cases, but I ran a prosecutor's office. And when we talked about evidence collecting and surveillance and getting videos and doing canvassing and making sure that you properly stored biological materials, not in solo cups, I wouldn't even think I'd even have to say something like that, or this, that, or the other. I always would say, you don't want a guy like me coming in cross-examining you when you may have been doing a perfectly acceptable, fine job. This is why you got to dot I's and cross T's and not jump to conclusions. And even though, listen, I've been out there, sometimes people want to cut corners because it's easy to do. Don't do it, because you're going to have somebody confronting you with it down the road. And if I were still prosecutor to this day, I would be taking this case and I would literally be making every law enforcement investigative officer review the various sections of the things that they should have done that they didn't do, interviewing witnesses, trying to get consent or a search warrant for the house, getting the video, solo cups, the whole thing, and say, don't let this happen to you.
Is this O.J. Simpson of this generation? This case, in terms of teaching moments?
From a teaching perspective, I think from an if I had this case when I was the prosecutor, I'm not making this up. Every investigator in my office would be watching the cross-examination of these witnesses as an education, because you get a lot of pushback in my world. Like you have the lawyer side. I love them. I loved it. You had the lawyer side and you had the detective side. And a lot of times they work on the same cases, but they didn't always play well in the sandbox. And I don't mean this negatively to any field. I love them all. Okay. They were all my children. But like the cops would look at it like, once you put the handcuffs on the person, you kind of moved on to the next case. And the lawyers were left with, well, is there a defense? Is there passion provocation? Is there a lesser included offense? Did we do this, that, or the other? And the detectives would get worn out sometimes, like, oh my God, what do you want me to do? Lift the whole building and move it over? Yeah, that's what we want you to do. We want you to pursue every lead, even the leads. Well, wait a minute, but we know that it wasn't self-defense. But no, I want you to pursue self-defense. On the last murder case I tried, I knew there was going to be an allegation of sexual abuse, so I had his computer forensically evaluated. I had him forensically evaluated. I worked the case like it was a sex crimes case. Why? Because sure enough, they argued an inappropriate sexual relationship, but I was able to say, well, we looked into that, and we did this, that, and the other, and nothing came up. These are the things that you do to get ahead of it. So would I show this as a teaching moment? This case in particular, about how damaging you not doing what you're supposed to be doing and destroying evidence and getting rid of evidence and the way it looks. Yeah, absolutely. This case better than any I think we've covered, Linda, in all the years. I think this case illustrates what not to do.
And you didn't
and I think that's why it's resonated so much with everybody. Yes, it's got elements of soap opera, right? It's got relationship issues. It's got potential backbiting. But it's also got big bad government elements that people, they want to fight back against the government. And every time they see this case, second time now, maybe we'll see a third, it unfolds and we see more and more governmental I don't know. The best I can say is inadequateness. That's the best thing I can say about what we've seen from the government in this case. And I think people get fired up about that stuff.
I think that this case is great for defense lawyers to say, like, I always get this question. Well, you were like a prolific prosecutor and you tried a lot of murder cases. How could you go on the dark side and be a defense lawyer? And I get that. I understand why people say that, but this is a perfect explanation. I mean, 90% of what I do as a defense lawyer is making deals with prosecutors. It's not to say the person didn't do it or they're not guilty, but what's the appropriate punishment? What's the reasonable resolution of the case? But guys, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I will tell you I'm sorry if I'm going to say something that's controversial here, but the level of, when I left the prosecutor's office in my first stint, we had no computers on our desks. We had no cell phones. And there was DNA evidence, but we could never get any DNA. I tried blood cases without DNA evidence. 12 years later, the governor appoints me to be the head prosecutor. And I come now with cell phones, computers, videos, DNA, touch DNA, and the investigations literally were worse. It's a hard thing to explain.
Because they don't believe in shoe leather. Like here, they didn't go knocking on every single door to see, what did you see? They didn't knock on the house. Knock, Mr. Albert, there's a dead body in front of your lawn. May we come in and investigate? May we interview you separately? Knock.
Yeah. What's the difference between using these new technologies to enhance your good work and relying on them in place of your good work?
So I literally use 3 words to explain it, 2 concepts. There's a lack of curiosity and common sense. This is what I've like, and I see the curiosity thing's a big thing. Like, aren't you curious about why? Are you asking questions of yourself when you're there? Does this make sense? Will this make sense? Is there something that we've literally solved cases that were unsolvable, or they were about to arrest one person, it turned out to be the other person because somebody was curious and used their common sense. Forget the computer, put the DNA down, use your common sense. So I think it's becoming a little epidemic, to be honest with you.
Yep, I can see it. And we've seen this has been a weird year, and I mean 12 months with the cases we've seen that have gone toward the defense side, even to the point where a court has granted, in fact, the court we're very familiar with has granted a judgment notwithstanding a verdict or a directed verdict. And you could count on one hand normally over 10 years how often that might happen, but it's happened.
And another reason why it's allowed to continue, to just go further at the soapbox, and why I think, because back in the day, Linda, when we were trying cases, there wasn't so much mandatory sentencing. And so defense lawyers had more of an incentive to challenge the government's proofs. And the prosecutors were more seasoned, and the detectives were more seasoned in investigating and being prepared to present a case in a courtroom. But then the advent of mandatory sentencing came about, and everything got a name to it. John's Law, Harry's Law, Linda's Law, Michael's Law, Bob's Law, and it got attached to it a mandatory, and whoppingly huge sentences. And why is that important? Because now defendants are disincentivized to go to trial because the repercussions of a conviction are so much more draconian today. But what also happened, while we've resolved a lot of cases with that mentality, people have lost the art of trying cases and investigating cases in the process.
Well, you and I try cases. Alan Jackson tries cases. Jose Baez tries cases. And it is amazing because when we go into trials and try cases, what do the court people say to us after we finish and get the not guilty verdicts? Wow, we've never seen a defense team like that. Because people, to your point, aren't being taught how to try cases. You and I went to courses, right? I remember like Saturdays on my own time, constantly, seeking out the best trial lawyers in the world and talking to them, and you did too.
I just learned mine by fire, trial by fire. Nobody showing me shit.
You're the
I just
best.
went in, I just dived in, and I learned the hard way.
Well, Mike Corbanix, who you guys both know and love, literally grabbed, this is how it used to be done in the day, literally grabbed me in the hallway of the Hudson County Courthouse and said, "Hey, have you tried a case yet?" I'm like, "No." He handed me a file. He goes, "There's your jurors," and the jurors were congregating. I literally picked a jury as I was reading the file, and that's how it was back then.
Nice, yeah. Yep.
Oh, it's true. I mean, it's true. Bob, you're just fabulous. I want to remind everybody you're a top dog prosecutor, tried a gazillion cases, all ethical. You got your wins, all ethical. Your dad, great. You learned from him, great trial lawyer. From New Jersey, my New Jersey boy. All right. Defense attorney, ethical, great. And then you were an EMT when you were younger. Then you come back, and now you're an EMT, and you do these 24-hour shifts twice a week, and you still have the time to be a great lawyer and come on the show and share your knowledge with us. And you're just like my idol.
And the EMT angle. I mean, not like you got nothing else to do, Bob. And you decide to throw your stethoscope into that, which is impressive, bud.
I've learned in the last year and a half that I went on this mission to go back to doing this again, which I just really love. It's been a great bookend to my career to see the same things I was doing before and the memories that come back and the issues. But one difference is clear: my knees and the hips aren't the same as they used to be.
Yep, some things do change over time. Yes, they do.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, pleasure. We're going to keep in touch, and next time we can reach out to you. I hope you'll answer the phone.
Absolutely. Thank you, and thanks to your audience. I always love being on. I have a lot of fun. Peace.
Take care, bud.
Okay.
Bye. He's great. He's just great.
There's Missy. Sorry, Missy. I'm punching too many buttons. I think I've got sprained fingers from all the shenanigans.
Well, I had it because every time we put up a thing, we're gonna have to clear this Brian and Bob thing off. Every time we have it, I was like texting, "We need a 3-box." I'm texting you. I'm saying, "We need a 3-box," so I can put up. Olivia was in the chat, and I wanted to show her, and of course,
we're gonna have to
Joanna
rework
was in,
that.
and everybody else who was donated and so generous to us to allow you to go to Canton tomorrow, where you're going to be tomorrow Thursday.
That's right. And now I've got to go back to the neighborhood for a couple of reasons. The whole Arlo cam thing we talked about. I definitely want to explore that a little bit. And there was something else. I can't remember, but it was another measure. Oh, the front yard. I've got to get the plat map so I can see how wide it is, because we know from today's testimony it was a 60-foot width that
Right.
the CERT team went and did their, recover a dead body type, walking a foot at a time and poking around and finding in one little puddle, they found the shoe and the 6 or 7. That wasn't even cleared today. 6 or 7 pieces of taillight, all within a very small circumference, which is strange, right? Not to mention that there are 40 other pieces that were found later littered about the lawn. But from what we know now, it was all in that little space. So I want to get the measurement. I'll pace it off, and I'll look at the plat map. But I'm guessing they did probably 60% of the width of the lot. The lot's no more than 100, maybe only 80 feet. But I think I want to get that perspective. So I'll do that on the ground tomorrow. And then...
Although O'Hara, I have to tell you, O'Hara to me seemed like he was a decent witness. He wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, I think he was probably, by comparison, I would agree with you. Any other case, maybe not, but yeah, in this case, yeah, I wasn't repelled. So that's my standard. Was I repelled by the witness? No, okay, it was all right. And then there was the other. Oh, I'm gonna get your take on this before we call it a day or a night.
Which we're going to soon have to do, because I have about 5 minutes left before I have a definite hard out.
Okay, then let's see, what's today? Tuesday? Oh, I think I know what the hard out is. And best of luck with your chips. Okay, Charles Ray. Okay, this is the guy, Canton PD, that went on a wellness check at Meadows Ave.
Right.
What do you think? This is a new guy from what I can recall. What do you think they're up to with this guy who was on for like 5 minutes? There were no questions for him from the defense.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I simply don't know.
I don't either. I had a couple of suspicions, but I'm not putting that piece in the puzzle. So it's to come.
Oh, Missy Dami, poker night. Well, I don't win any money. I could only win like glory if I win, and even that, right. But it's with lawyers, and it's fun to talk about cases and get their take on cases. And I'm going to get their take on pick their brains about this case tonight.
Ah, there you go. And anybody you can convince to come on, go ahead and do that. Feel free. You're already a winner. Look at that jacket. Okay. Shall we go? And then tomorrow you're going to be. Are you going to be able to? Are you playing?
Well, I'm going to be planning to be on it at 8:50 tomorrow morning. I'd like to. I've asked Missy if she possibly can pull in that call, the pervert call. I want to talk about that a little more. You're going to be driving up to Canton and be there for 1 o'clock, and then we'll do our chat, and you'll take over, and you'll be there also on Thursday. Right. Hopefully. We'll hear something about your other case.
Yeah, we're still under a stay on the
First Amendment case.
What is today? The 6th? Yeah, we still got a week left on the stay, but I believe this week the First Circuit may make a decision based on the arguments made by our attorney Mark Randazza in the protesters case from yesterday. Okay, so good. I don't want to have to do your job here.
No, you did, because you forgot to do the job this afternoon. I did watch.
About liking and doing whatever else you're supposed to do?
Like I have to let all of you hit that like button, please, before Michael actually says the sign off. Let's reverse it. Please hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, the notify button, but the like button and the share button especially, and the subscribe button, because it doesn't cost you anything.
And then you can join in the chat.
And then you can join in the chat if you are a subscriber. Right. And then I'm going to turn myself now over to Michael Bryant.
Well, I got nothing else to say except that I'm Michael Bryant. That's Linda Kenny Bodden. Try to do the right thing, and we will see you tomorrow.